Sound check 1 2 3. Sound check 1 2 3.
Good afternoon, everyone. As we have quorum present for today's meeting, I'd like to call this meeting of the Emergency Community Services Committee to order on this, October 23rd, 2025. Reminder that all electronic devices will be switched to a non-audible function during committee meetings. Joining me in chambers today is Councillor Huang, Councillor Crutch. Online, we have Councillor Maureen Wilson and Councillor Alex Wilson. We have regrets from Councillor Jackson. Thank you. Approval of the agenda. May I please have a mover and seconder for our very brief agenda as presented? Moved by Councillor Huang, seconded by Councillor Alex Wilson. Any amendments? I forgot to ask that ahead of time, sorry. Okay, show of hands vote to approve the agenda as presented. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. That carries. On to delegations of interest. Any? Seeing none, we'll move on to approval of the minutes of our previous meeting, which was earlier this month on October 2nd. Could I get a mover and seconder to adopt those minutes? Moved by Councillor Maureen Wilson, seconded by Councillor Alex Wilson. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, also show a hand vote. Thank you, Councillor Clark. That was just the minutes that we approved. On to item 8.1, which is Wentworth Lodge Heritage Trust Fund Subcommittee Minutes from the October 17th, 2025 committee meeting. Before we open the floor to questions, I need a mover and seconder to put those on the table. Thank you, Councillor Alex Wilson, seconded by Councillor Clark. The floor is open to any questions on the minutes. Councillor Wilson and Councillor Clark are both on the speakers list. We'll start with Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. I am showing my ignorance here, and I'm wondering if staff could just provide an overview of the history behind this trust and its mandate. Thank you.
Certainly. Over to you, Director.
Through the Chair, Holly O'Duarty, Director of Long-Term Care and Seniors, to Councillor Wilson. So this particular fund came from a resident that lived at Wentworth Lodge, and there was a donation from the family to Wentworth Lodge. And I apologize, I don't have the dates, but I could get that for you at a later period of time. And through that, Councillor Russ Powers at the time, there was a trust fund committee that was created to help manage this fund to use for the specific purpose of the request of the family to support activities to enhance the quality of life for the residents that lived at Wentworth Lodge.
Thank you very much for that overview. Would you be able to outline the size of the fund and specific to 8.1A, that it says that 75% of the funds remain in the bank and 25 invested in a GIC at a one-year term. So I'm just trying to understand the size of the fund and where would one find an accounting of where the money is being invested in and how? Thank you.
Through the Chair. So in Appendix A with this report.
Oh, I didn't see the appendix. I'm sorry.
That's okay, Councillor. So there was an opening balance in April of $315,960, and with interest earned up until September of 2025, there was $321,126.68. And again, I would have to go back, Councillor, but I understand that there was a $500,000 donation, but I would need to go back to confirm that. But I do see Councillor Wilson nodding his head, so perhaps he's confirming that. And this money has really supported Wentworth Lodge. If you'd like to come for a tour, you would be able to see the investment in the courtyard with the gazebo, the electrical that it took, beautiful trees, the environment there for the residents during seasons where we're able to navigate outside is fantastic, and it really has brought enhanced the resident green space at Wentworth Lodge with this particular trust fund from this family.
Thank you very much for that. I cycle by it all the time, but truth be told, I have never been inside, so I might follow up and request a tour. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And just to clarify, on the eScribe portion of the agenda, the appendix is not there's no appendix associated to the minutes, just so that's clear.
Thank you.
Yep. Next up, we have Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chair Nan. I have visited, this would have been a few years ago though, but it's a tremendous facility. It really does serve the residents really well, and that outdoor common space is well received by most. My question, Chair, is one of process, and I should know the answer, but at the moment I'm suffering from a brain fart and can't really recall. Do we have to approve this with a direct motion, or by receiving the minutes of this committee, we thereby are approving it? Does that make sense?
So through the chair to the councillor, we are approving the minutes today. Therefore, we are approving the recommendations contained therein.
Okay, thank you. I support it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. That exhausts our speakers list. And, oh, my apologies. Councillor Alex Wilson, please.
Sorry, apologies. I signaled during debate. Just a quick clarification for folks. Yeah, we only get this report once a year, so I think the reminder is helpful. Finance staff make a recommendation on the investment amount, and then as Senior Administrator Odiarty said, as to within those investment terms, how actual funds get expensed to benefit residents of the reserve. So finance staff made a recommendation this year it was the 75-25. In previous years, it's been 10-90, for example. And this is really the only work of this committee is this annual meeting, which is why it's not a common occurrence at this subcommittee.
Thank you. No further speakers. Got it. Excellent. Committee members, out of an abundance of caution, I'm actually going to declare an interest on the minutes of this fund, as one of my family members is a resident of Wentworth Lodge, and these actions would benefit the residents directly, so I'm going to conflict myself out of the vote. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded, and before committee for electronic vote, please. Thank you, that carries. On to the next item on our agenda, which is motions. 9.1 is feasibility of reintroducing neighborhood action strategy. Councillor Cretch, if you could please introduce your motion.
Thanks very much. I'm happy to introduce this motion. You're my seconder. I won't read the whereas clauses out directly, but I ask everyone to read them because I think it's important for you to consider them because the community wrote them. I want to give you a bit of a background about how we ended up with this motion here. So I chair something called the Neighborhood Association Council. And this is a council that exists in Ward 2 for all 6 neighborhood associations. It's been something that's been going on since I got elected. We meet every few months and we discuss issues. And one of the issues that kept coming up over and over and over again were the lists here you can see in the second part of the whereas clause with asks for help with conflict resolution, communication, online meeting software, grants, events, financial support, you name it. And when I kept hearing this, I said to myself, well, this sounds awfully similar to what we used to have with the neighborhood action strategy of the city. Bit of a personal anecdote, and people know I don't really make these too often, but I was there sitting in the Beasley Neighborhood Association at Simone Hall some years ago when the Hamilton Community Foundation canceled the program. I sat there and heard the news, and it was a devastating blow to the community, because they were part of this program at one point. And by the way, I have spoken to them just in case people are wondering about their future potential involvement in this conversation. And I'm hoping staff will also have a chance to talk to them about what they might be able to contribute. But when it was canceled, it had a devastating impact on the poorest communities because people really desperately relied upon having some support to be able to hold meetings, to help things progress, to access city resources, to translate materials, you name it. I can think back to COVID when there was a huge ask and a huge demand for there to be clinics for folks who didn't speak English, translation services, posters to be put up in neighborhoods in other languages. And in Ward 2, there's about 10 different languages at the top of the list that are most predominantly spoken. And who did that work in the end? Neighborhood associations. In fact, my neighbor Mary did it, and other people, Margaret did it. They're the ones who got out there and figured it out and got this work to do. And it was extremely difficult and a lot of heavy lifting. They helped organize clinics for people. They made sure those translated materials were out there. And they weren't able to carry on doing that work afterwards. COVID-19 devastated a lot of neighborhood associations in terms of their ability to do things. A lot of the folks who participate in Ward 2 are families, meaning that they're parents and they've got kids and they're being asked to do this work in the evenings. And not everyone coming to these discussions knows all the rules of order like we do, knows exactly how to structurally do things, and sometimes when conflicts occur, don't know what to do. So we used to have individuals employed through the Hamilton Community Foundation, through the city, who would go and spend time in neighborhood associations at their meetings, help them get through issues, help them access city programming. For instance, even being able to access translation services through the city at the cost the city pays, neighborhood associations would be a huge, huge leap for people. This is a community where the very, very vast majority of people, 80%, rent their homes. And of that 80% who rent their homes, the very vast majority of those live in apartment buildings. It's extremely difficult to access apartment buildings for neighborhood associations. Again, this is going to break down barriers. So the motion is to ask for staff to go away and come back and determine what's possible here. What can we do as a city? What can we do from a pilot perspective, perhaps in Ward 2? But what does the feasibility look like in terms of what would be required to do something here to support neighborhood associations? Thankfully, in the last, I would say 3 or 4 years, a lot of the infrastructure in this motion is now part of what we do at the city. My office has been behind the scenes testing a lot of it out. So we've been trying to see, well, how do translation services work? How do mail services work at a ward level? How do mail services work at a neighborhood level through Canada Post? And we've been actually able to successfully make it happen. And so that's been a part of the discussion here with these folks is, hey, will these things work, will they won't work? And they've been the ones pushing us to do these kinds of things. So neighborhood associations are asking for this. Also, the YWCA sent a letter of support in for this. It didn't make it in time for the agenda, but it'll be there for council. And they are asking as well for us to go ahead and ask staff to look into this and report back. So that's the long and short of it. But I'm really hoping for your support here because I think it's important for us to get an answer about how we can support these groups in Ward 2. And across the city, frankly, I should say.
Thank you, Councillor. Speakers list, we have Councillor Huang, Councillor Clark, and then myself.
Thank you. Highly supportive of this motion. In Ward 4, we used to have 5 neighborhood committees. We're down to 1, and even that 1 is actually volunteer-based. And I'm thankful that the previous community planning team still volunteers their time to participate in the McQuestion planning team. My question, I guess, to either the mover or to staff, when you understand feasibility, other than like the moving pieces of it, will feasibility also ask about how much it would cost to actually reintroduce this? And also, would it also look at like what are the potential funding mechanisms in which we would bring this forward?
Through the chair, Grace Mader, General Manager, Healthy and Safe Communities, through the councillor, yes, that we would be including that, what that would look like, that where the budget, how much the budget would be, what kind of resources would it entail, and some potential opportunities, whether it be a referral to the budget process or a referral to, some other avenue.
Okay, and then my next question is in terms of time frame, do we want to try and hammer this in for this budget or no? Or are we looking at it? Yeah, okay.
Thank God, thank you. Sorry. Through the councillor, through the chair to the councillor, I would say that realistically, we would be looking probably at the start of Q2 for 2026,
Perfect.
If that works for the mover.
Yeah, I was worried about, I don't know, we're all talking budget these days, so I was a little worried about you trying to figure this out before then. Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Huang. Next up, we have Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate GM Mader's prayer in the middle of the discussion here. We might need some help with that. Can I ask the $2 million that I surmise was a contribution from Hamilton Community Foundation, was that an annual amount or was that a one-time amount spread over a number of years? Forgive me, but I'm not familiar with this program at all.
Through the chair, so Councillor, through the chair to the councillor, it was not, the $2 million wasn't from HCF at the time, and I am a little fuzzy myself on the exact funding avenue for the duration of the project, because it was for a number of years. So we would include that in the report back, a bit of a history of the way it originated, what happened, and its, you know, kind of slow demise, and then the potential for the re-engagement.
And would the report back include whether or not the funding would need to be annualized?
Through the chair, yes, if it was to be in for an ongoing period of time, or if we were looking at this as being a potential pilot period or something like that, there would be that avenue as an opportunity as well.
Thank you. May I speak to it briefly, Chair?
You have time. Go ahead.
I think the idea of it being a pilot is an excellent one. So that could be a part of the report back. I'd like to know the success of the previous program, if that's at all possible. I know we don't always have the records to help us in that regard. But I am keenly aware that many of us sitting around the chamber have community associations that are functioning in our wards, doing excellent work, and don't always have the expertise to handle the responsibilities of the money and the reporting and how we do governance, et cetera, et cetera. And depending on the outcome of this pilot, it may be something that we would want to expand across all the wards and give an opportunity for wards to utilize the funding for different community associations. I think it's worth getting the report back. I think if it was successful, and I believe it would have been, I'm hopeful that it would have been, I think it's something that we could morph into a program across the city to assist all councillors if they have neighborhood association committees trying to help improve the ward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. General Manager Mader.
Thank you, through the chair. Councillor Clark, there was an evaluation completed for the Neighbourhood Action Strategy a number of years ago, so we can include that as well, some of the findings. And I know, just to add to Councillor Kretsch's original commentaries, that there was a lot of passion for this project throughout the community and a lot of dedicated volunteers along the way. And I know that it was very disappointing for a number of the areas when the program had to conclude, and that. So, and it was about trying to level that playing field across the board to what are the small little things that could go a long way to support those different planning communities.
Thank you, Councillor. Next up, we have Councillor Alex Wilson and then myself.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, I think a question just first to the mover. I'm reading a lot of the language as supporting the development or supporting the work of existing neighborhood and community associations. And I'm not looking to change that if that is the intended purpose. I'm just looking if there is any desired language around the development of new neighborhood or community associations. So I know, especially in the lower city, divided by main arterial roads, for example, and other parts of the city, identified neighborhoods don't have the same infrastructure. And so just wondering what the mover's thoughts are on is this meant for existing neighborhood associations? Kind of what are the tools they need? How can they be get that support reintroduced to them? Or is there a desire in the report back to also have a thought about capacity building in new organizations?
Yeah, what I should say, and I didn't maybe say this up front, is that it's not meant to replicate the former neighborhood action strategy. That's just the foundation for this conversation because it's the most accessible thing that we have available to us, right? It's the thing we know, it's the model we have. And so the goal would be if something was introduced to do a little more or do something differently perhaps than we did before, because there was lots of criticisms also of the way it worked and the areas it served. And so it's important to be thoughtful about that. And yeah, I think ultimately, yes, it would be a home to incubate these kinds of things to happen in the future, because I think, to use a terrible analogy, but it's the only one I've got, if you build it, they'll come. Meaning if there's going to be an opportunity for people to have a bit of support, which is all some groups may have ever needed, you might see groups either coming back, groups forming, groups saying, I want to do something, right? We're not hopefully talking about a program that's extremely expensive to run. We're talking about hopefully doing something that can be leveraged in many different kinds of ways, right? So maybe there's some funding that comes through councillors' offices for some of these things. Maybe there's funding that comes from the city through the budget process. Maybe there's other kinds of funding from grants and other levels of government that might be able to assist us here. And building a holistic package that's sustainable. Because the problem we had before is the strategy wasn't necessarily sustainable, and that's why it ended. And so I think the answer to your question is, I don't think it's meant to be exclusive of anyone. I think it's just that we're dealing with the group we've got now who are providing the feedback. So the feedback that to define this motion came from, I think, likely a group of very active neighborhood associations who've been thinking about this for many years. So I hope that helps answer the question.
Thank you. It does. And then just comments from me, Chair. I think the thing that I'm most excited about in this motion is clause 7, I think it is, the use of online resources or a digital communications hub, and how can those resources be done? I think right now we link to existing neighborhood associations' Facebook pages. Wherever possible, providing alternative means for folks to connect digitally. Like, just very, very excited to think about what we could be doing in that space with existing resources or with potential new resources that aren't necessarily just a referral to a Facebook page. So excited to hear what staff's thoughts are in the context of a sustainable program with likely not a ton of resources, what could be available to help out neighborhoods. So excited to support this and see what comes back. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. If I could pass the chair to Vice Chair Clark. And through you, a couple of questions. Happy to second this motion. Can share that, well before considering running for office, I had the privilege of coming into Hamilton when the neighborhood action strategy was underway and saw the direct impacts of a resourced capacity in the neighborhood that I live in. And at that time, it was in the Sherman Hub neighborhood group. And the leadership that grew there, the skill building that happened there, the engagement and leadership of residents in identifying priorities, working with the city to have those priorities implemented, but also building social cohesion and working through difficult issues and coming to a place of understanding and mutual understanding, which I have to say, I really deeply miss that work. Not just in my own neighborhood as a resident in the city, but I hear it from residents across Ward 3 that benefited from this work and the scaffolding that this work provided. We know that post-COVID, there has been a dramatic drop in resident engagement and volunteerism. We also have seen a rise, unfortunately, in social isolation, as well as social division, as well as polarization and extreme camps forming in our community. And I call it the art of dialogue, the art of community building is under-resourced. And it is that the heart of that work that often allows a coming together of a community and a opening towards understanding and mutuality. Not always blanket cohesion, but a place to get into the messy work that is done in a way that's principled, that holds the values of humanity forward, and fosters mutual respect in our community so that we can actually accomplish something together. I can't think of a better time for this work. My question to staff is, at a high level, if you could comment a little bit about how this work fits into any specific group within the division. Is this a community, like, Is this a safety and well-being? Is this straddling a bunch of different places? Could you just respond to that one? Thanks.
Through the chair, you must have been listening to us talk a little earlier. It's Jessica and I, or Director Chase and I, were just discussing this. And I know Director Baird helped craft, along with the councillors, some of the wording for the motion. So yeah, it is a bit of a straddle, but it just really struck me that it is the alignment I probably most aligned to is this, the community safety and well-being plan, and that sits with Director Chase. So I think we want to build on those kinds of connections that are already being made in the community. And a lot of this is not, it's not new. It's really just, you know, much to the word is about reinvigorating, you know, what are the opportunities that, you know, maybe people dwindled away from it. And it is kind of, you know, little bits and pieces. It doesn't take a lot sometimes. It's really just trying to build on what the assets of the communities and the neighborhoods already have.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Through you, Chair. Also, thank you to Councillor Crutch for bringing the motion forward and integration of item B, which I think some councillor members already mentioned. Having that evaluation that was previously done come back as an accompanying piece of this report, as well as hearing about the best practices and key learnings from the previous iteration that we might be able to lift up and look at discerningly moving forward. So thanks again to the mover and thanks to staff. We'll take back the chair. It's been moved and seconded. Oh, second time, Councillor Crutch, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just realized I don't think I said Q2 2026 in the motion, and having heard staff say that, sorry I overlooked that. It should just be added there for a time frame, so we have that. And just wanted to offer maybe one more comment to say that this is probably the first of a few motions that will be coming forward in this term of council from the Neighborhood Association Council in Ward 2. And what I want to say is what they've said to me, which is it wouldn't be possible to do this work without the scaffolding and the different kinds of things that we're able to provide as an office. And honestly, just thankful that we have the staff in our office to be able to do this work, to work with neighborhood associations, but that won't always be a sustainable activity either. That's not something that our office can sustain on its own. So I just want to say that this is really coming from a place of everybody wanting to participate in their community. And to Councillor Nan's point, really importantly, the thing she said that I think maybe doesn't come through if you weren't part of this process or didn't see these things up close was, what neighborhood associations were able to do with this specific kind of support they got was to go out into the community and help residents understand issues that were happening. So, for instance, in Ward 2 specifically, there were a bunch of active developments and property purchases that were happening in neighborhoods, and it was causing a lot of stress to people because they didn't understand what was happening. They'd read the official notices, it would be in language that was inaccessible, and they wouldn't know what to do. And they could find a home in coming to these regular neighborhood association meetings. At one point, the Corktown Neighborhood Association had something like 3 different active subcommittees holding public meetings across the entire neighborhood, right, including their regular quarterly meetings. Now that neighborhood, because of COVID, because of the kinds of things that have happened, because of lack of support, hasn't met in years. And so we're finally having a meeting this November, actually, for the first time in many years, to sort of reinvigorate the neighborhood association. But I just want to tell you, the loss here has been unbelievable. And so having these spaces be reactivated and supported is crucial to, frankly, I think, all the work that we do as city councilors. Thanks.
Thank you. No further speakers. The motion is before committee to vote. Electronic, please. And that carries. Thank you. Any notices of motion, committee members? Seeing none and there being no further business for our committee, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you everyone for your support in getting this